Welcome to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. In this segment, Pat and James, well, the things James and Pat randomly talk about and where they lead us are surprising. In this segment, we open with trauma cleaners, raising our vibrational frequency, then segue to theorizing about allostatic load, allostatic overload, stress, weathering, and their impact on people physically and emotionally.
Yeah. Oh, on that topic, I just watched a bit of a documentary on trauma cleaner in Australia. That's like people who come in after suicide, death, whatever, and hoarding, etc. And they showed a little glimpse of one cleaning site where the person had been undiscovered in their full bathtub for 8 months. 8 months.
Wow. In Australia,
Can you imagine?
Like hot probably too.
It was just like a soup. It was a soup with bones in the bottom. They didn't show it like directly.
But it was enough to, See,
you would need rubber gloves up to your armpits. I was concerned.
You get paid a huge amount to do that job.
Yeah. She's got a quite successful business. She's got COPD from inhaling too many chemicals, or at least they didn't have the same protective gear as they do now. But I got concerned just watching from my living room that the person bending over to pull the plug out of the tub, their gloves weren't deep high enough, and they were going to get some of that sludgy soup on their skin.
And then pulling where's it?
You can't pull the plug because you got to slip a sieve or something. I had the whole thing in my mind. Like in the 30 seconds I was watching that.
I mean, that's going to go into the septic or the sewage system.
You actually probably need to unhook the pipe from underneath and then just put a bucket.
Yeah, that's a job.
And the thing is, I say to myself, don't watch shit like that. Don't watch the serial killer stuff because I'm trying to raise my vibrational frequency because life is so hard right now. I'm just like, I need good shit to happen. It's not going to happen if I'm fucking, making myself feel better by watching people in worse circumstances. That is not
all right. So maybe we should think about that as a segment, right? Good. Get the vibrancy up.
Yeah,
how do you
because
do it?
I'm taking the piss in a way because that's so woo-woo and law of attraction, and but at the same time, you project your shit on the world. So if all you take in is death and ill will,
if you want the sciencey side of that, it's allostatic load, right?
It's what?
It's called allostatic load. And
let me write this down.
And everybody walks around the planet with a certain level of allostatic load, which is basically stress, all those kinds of things, right?
I didn't know that term.
There's like normal stress, right? So when you're a teenager, there's the normal stress of being a teenager. But some teenagers fly over, right?
Yeah.
And they go into a state of allostatic overload.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so what you're talking about is being near or at an allostatic overload and trying to find ways to either mitigate the sources, right?
Yeah.
So bring yourself back to more normal allostatic load.
Yeah.
Or ways to kind of build more resilience, so you increase your cap. So you're still dealing with all the same things, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously you can't just you can't quit your job, you can't quit your mom, you can't, all this stuff.
Yeah.
So you try and build resiliency to raise your cap, so that you handle more stress. And then when that's done, like your allostatic load goes back down, it goes like way down.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So that sense of relief that can come from that, it can be pretty profound, right?
Yeah.
You go from here, like that vibration you're talking about, where it's really just to a much calmer state. And
Yeah.
then there's the companion theory, which is called weathering.
Ooh.
That's when somebody is in a state of allostatic load for an extended period of time, like not just months or even years, but like, life,
Yeah.
basically. Um, it has a weathering effect. So it starts to affect, and this is where, they talk about stress impacts to your physical health.
Yeah.
And so it starts to impact your health, but it can drill down into the DNA,
Oh shit.
reprogram the DNA to make you and successive generations that inherit that DNA more prone to a whole range of physical maladies. So when you look at, like African Americans in the U.S.,
Yeah.
and they have health outcome disparities, and I don't mean like disparities in terms of receiving care, and that's another
No.
topic.
Yeah.
The health outcome disparities where they um, die younger, they get chronic diseases at younger
Yeah.
age more frequently, and all this kind of stuff. And for a long time, there was this belief that it was social determinants of health,
Mm.
where if you raise their living standard, that'll fix the problem. But what's happening is, as we're growing the Black middle class again,
Mm-hmm.
those we're finding that education and financial status are not protective of,
Yeah.
and that's because it's gotten into the DNA. So it's going to take another set of generations then to reverse that allostatic overload and weathering
Holy
effect.
shit.
Yeah. So
Interesting. 'Cause I find that really interesting because the example you used is sort of big picture, but even within a person's lifetime.
but yeah, you wonder about it and worry about it, and I would say you've got to do the cold water swimming. You've got to do all these things
Yeah.
because and I run constantly,
Mm.
like constantly. I would probably run all day if I could.
I was just thinking, shouldn't you be further away by now?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, one day I'm gonna come on. I'm gonna be like outside.
I'm in Mexico. It's already easier.
In a forest gump. Yes.
My allostatic loads.
My allostatic load is pretty, it's like this much down
Yeah.
already after 1,000 miles.
It can
So
take a long time, I think, even after, like you were saying, even after there's this period of what, like relief? I forget
yeah.
exactly how you put it. But after you go through something heavy and you're in overload, and I'm trying, like, sources of mitigation for me, you're absolutely right. The cold plunge, and that stuff was not deliberate. It just seemed to happen sort of
Mhm.
serendipitously. Our conversations, uh, anyway, there's probably
Well,
more
the
I could be doing.
subconscious, like we've talked about the power of the subconscious in terms of creativity, but it
Yeah.
it it goes beyond that. It's like your subconscious is going, okay, we're in an overload, we're in a state of hypervigilance.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel good. What can we do?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, that's where, oh, I can do a cold plunge. Oh, I could do this podcast.
Oh, I see. So your subconscious is helping you gravitate towards sort of ways to mitigate the
Yeah.
load.
Yeah. So
Okay.
think about like everything's good. And so like all of these stressors just kind of, fade into the background.
Yeah.
And then it's like, are you gonna be feeling that same kind of angsty, I need to do something, I need to, and it can be like one, the distraction of cold plunge, podcast, going out with friends, and it can also be the distraction of spacing out the TV for like 5 hours a night or something
Yeah.
like that, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll be like, wow, I'm not doing that stuff as much anymore, and I'm doing other things,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows? But
It's a good one.
yeah,
Yeah.
but definitely when you get there, as
Mhm.
fingers crossed we both will before too long, uh, to get that experience of relief,
Yeah.
uh, you've really got to do some work
Yeah.
to recognize it. So
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I'm glad we had this chat about that, because I think there's probably a lot of material about it.
Thanks for listening to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions who are not psychiatrists or psychologists or trained to provide any form of diagnosis or treatment or therapy. The preceding, we hope, provides information that you find useful. But please, if you need some psychological help or you feel like your emotional well-being is not well, please seek help. We love you, and we hope to hear from you soon. As a matter of fact, we'd love to learn how we're doing, so please leave a comment, join our chat page, or send us an email at giftedunderachievers@substack.com. You can also find us where you like to download podcasts the best, whether it's Spotify, iTunes, or wherever. Have an awesome day.